Hey folks, welcome back to Dabuya Gaming. Today we're going to be checking out Divinity Original Sin 2. Divinity Original Sin 2 has been out since 2017, and it has proven itself to be one of the best and well-paced RPGs of our current generation. With its wide range of characters, in-depth player builds, and interactive story, this game is guaranteed to get you glued to your seat for hours on end. If you need more convincing, here are several reasons why you should play Divinity Original Sin 2 today. So when Larian Studios made Divinity Original Sin 2, they decided that they needed more meaningful and interesting characters. One of the biggest problems that Divinity Original Sin 1, or the first game, had was that you really didn't understand a whole heap of why you were there and what you were doing. You knew you were source hunters, you were finding some sorcerers, and that was about it. With Divinity Original Sin 2, they added origin characters. So the origin characters have a little cinematic for each character that kind of explains who and what they're doing. Why are they at the start of this game? What have they been doing before they even got to this game? I recommend that you play these origin characters or play with the origin characters. You're guaranteed to most likely play with at least 3 of them. They all have interesting interactive elements in the game world, as there will be NPCs that want to talk to them, or they want to talk to NPCs themselves. They might pat you on the shoulder and say, hey, I want to talk to that character before you do. They're also going to butt heads with you. They're also going to not agree with everything you're doing. Most of the origin characters hold together pretty well. They're all pretty interesting characters. In the end, all the characters are worth giving a go. So this was a small and simple change that Larian Studios made to the Divinity series. It adds a little bit more polish and wraps you more into the world and brings you right in. You basically have a narrator telling you little things that happen with your characters, and during dialogue or out of dialogue or in cutscenes. They could have more animation or something along those lines of actually getting the character to do those functions, but I think there's an element of being told what is happening gives it that D&D feel. Like, you have to imagine in your own head, oh, someone spits on the ground or spits in your face. I think another element to why the D&D narrative is probably used is because it's cheaper for Larian to pump out more storyline if they don't have to animate every single thing that the character's going to do. Because every punch or kiss or hug has to have some type of animation if they were going to do it. And with the way that their game, well, the engine seems to have been made, it seems you can place things in like animations and blips and blops all around the place. And that's why they can make this extensive story that takes 70 hours to play, because they had to cut a few things back, but in a way, it helps enhance the experience. One of the more confusing things I always find with RPGs is what the armor is actually doing. Most of the time they're stat providers, but sometimes that defense value, what is it actually doing? Is it mitigating damage? Is it making me have a better chance to miss? Doesn't make any sense at all. Armor effectively in DOS 2 is extra health bars. If you do not wear currentish armor or upgraded armor, you will pretty much get one-tapped by most enemies later on in the game. So effectively, you have physical and magical armor in this game. And depending on what you wear, you'll get more or less of each. So basically, if you're a warrior, you'll have more physical armor. If you're a roguey kind of character, you'll have a medium of physical and magical. And if you're a mage, you'll have more magical. So what these health bars actually do is, if you have physical armor, if something physical attacks you, like a weapon or a skill that is going to actually hit you, that will make you take physical damage. And when you run out of physical damage, you will be stunned by things that can knock you down, cripple you, bleeding. Those kind of status effects can actually affect you once you run out of physical armor. Same goes with magical armor. Once you run out of magical armor, things like being frozen, put on fire, petrified, those annoying statuses can actually affect you once you've run out of that specific set of armor. so it's always recommended that you have a higher set of armor. In my opinion, this is a really interesting and great upgrade to armor system, as it can help some of the more newbie players identify what armor is actually going to be better, other than just seeing a level or something like that. And you know that it is going to have some type of effect on your battle when you go into it next. Even 10 armor, extra armor, could save you in a battle easily. The combat in Divinity Original Sin 2 is nothing revolutionary, but is well created. It has a simplified turn-based system with action points. So normally you'd only get 4 usable action points in a round, and you'll have a maximum of 6. But there are other ways of getting more action points through things like the elves' ability to get an extra action point in a round, or using skills like Adrenaline, drinking tea, I think also gives you extra action points, and similar things like that. The combat in Divinity Original Sin 2 relies heavily on trying to tear down the enemy's armor, being physical or magical. Once you've teared down their armor, you'll need to focus on comboing out your enemies so that you can freeze them and push other status effects on them so they won't do the same to you. So being able to set up combos is what will make you deal with some of the most devastating damage that you can do in the game, or even keep your characters super tanky and healthy. So you want to create an explosive mess? Get your Geomancer to litter the battlefield with poison and oil. Then get your Pyromancer to explode all of those oily and poisonous messes into explosive, fiery Armageddon. You can even freeze your enemies in place if you got a Hydromancer to bring some rain down on your enemies, or even blood. You can get all the enemy characters nice and wet and then chill them down to the bone. The combinations are endless, but you also need to remember, for every combination there's kind of a counter combination. If you want to keep an enemy on fire, you can't then hit them with a cold spell. Simple things like that is what keeps the game interesting. With top-down RPGs, which is kind of what DOS 2 is, you're usually on a 2D plane. That's how at least the original Divinity Original Sin worked. You were just all on the same plane, there was no verticality to it. DOS 2 adds a third dimension. Woo! Almost like there's more than 2. Changes in elevation, honestly nothing super cool, but they do add an interesting element to the game. If you have the high ground, you'll be able to deal more damage, and you'll have a further casting range, which really helps because you can get a big advantage against all the enemies because you can hit them twice as far away nearly. Not only do you have the high ground advantage, but the enemies will have a low ground disadvantage. They'll have a harder chance of hitting you, and their spells are less likely to be able to get up there and reach you. They'll have to either be a lot closer or try and level the playing field by bringing you down or getting up there themselves. The only problem with the elevation is that the inverse can most likely happen to you. The enemy will easily get the high ground on top of you and will destroy you in some way. Just make sure you always equip your teleport spells and things like that, and you can bring the enemies down to you, or you can nether swap them, and you can take their position and they're stuck down below. Always be on the eye to find ways to get the advantage on your enemies. So not only is there elevation, but there's also barrels and puddles and little things all around the battlefield that you can interact with. Things like poison barrels, oil barrels, water barrels. There's usually puddles of water, sometimes puddles of poison. Use them all to your advantage. Light those puddles of oil on fire. Hit the puddles of water with electricity. Stun your enemies. Use every single little bit of battlefield interaction to your advantage. The best thing to do is to experiment. Make sure you find out all the interactions you can. Most RPGs have some sort of build variety, so I think Divinity Original Sin 2 takes an interesting approach to build varieties. You can pretty much do anything, as you have a vast array of skills, talents, and spells you can acquire. Even different weaponry can affect your build, Simply equipping a staff will make you deal elemental damage instead of physical damage. Even equipping a spear will make you scale with finesse rather than with strength. So you can build traditional classes like mages, clerics, paladins, warriors, things like that. Or you can go crazy by building some battle mages or elementalists, things that can sling all different types of spells or be up close, but also shooting fireballs. What's also great is that you can completely change these builds on the fly. Later on in the game, generally after the first act, after Fort Joy, you'll be able to go onto your ship and there'll be a mirror there that you can completely change your build. You can be a totally different character and you can reset everything. I would recommend trying not to change too much. Just try to do small tweaks and try to keep the build the same all the way through. But if you're really bored or really don't like your build, I totally recommend making a quick change so that you can just get something that you want to play with. You can experience the whole game with your friends and family. Some of the best moments I've had in games is when my friends have done something stupid and nearly wiped the whole team or even myself.
Yeah, it looks like it. Why?
You got knocked down. Rip.
What bullshit is this?
Oh jeez, they're really laying into you.
Heal real quick. Oh, you're doomed. Oh, you got
I'm dead.
Holy shit.
Okay.
There's a small amount of competition that you go through as well during this whole cooperation. You want to see if you can deal more damage, steal more stuff, try and get to the enemies faster in some way. There's always a competition that could be had. So the game does support up to 4 players playing together. That means that you can have just one friend, or you can, like I said, have 4. If you do have less than 4, you'll just have origin characters supporting you as well, unless you play lone wolf, but that's all up to you. You could even start the game by yourself and have friends jump into your games. So one interesting thing that Divinity Original Sin 2 does do is allows you to open the game up to friends or even the public to jump in at any point, and all you have to do is just bind certain characters to them. Usually I recommend, if you are going to play with friends, that you do make a whole new save, because it could be confusing for them jumping in and it feels a bit used if you, it's like driving someone else's car. So it's really up to you. If you do want to open up the game to the public as well, you need to be aware that they could fuck everything up, so just be smart about how you do it. But that's it, guys. Get out there and buy Divinity Original Sin 2 today. If you aren't convinced to play, leave a comment down below explaining why. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.
Come to me, the night is dark. Come to me, the night is long. Sing for me, I'll sing along. Sing for me, oh sing for me. Sway with me, we'll make them scream. Dance with me, we'll make them bleed.